The massive crystal dome of Nexus Prime sparkled under 3 different suns. Inside the Great Hall, creatures from across the galaxy gathered for their most important celebration. Every 500 years, they came together to remember their greatest victory. Today marked exactly 500,000 years since they destroyed the human race. Admiral Vex Thalon stood tall on the central platform. His green scales caught the light as he spread his arms wide. The reptilian commander wore golden armor that showed his high rank in the hegemony fleet. Behind him, a huge holographic display showed images of a small blue planet. "Friends and allies," Vex announced in his deep voice. "Today we celebrate the day we saved the galaxy from its greatest threat." The crowd of alien beings cheered. There were tall, thin creatures with 4 arms, short, round beings covered in fur. Others that looked like living crystals or floating gas clouds. All of them had come to hear about humanity's end. The humans thought they were special, Vex continued. They called their planet Earth. They believed they could spread across our galaxy and take what belonged to us. Dr. Kara Solden watched from her seat near the front. The crystalline scientist's body glowed with soft blue light as she took notes on her datapad. She studied extinct species and found humans particularly interesting. Even after all this time, she wondered what made them so dangerous that the entire galaxy had to unite against them. But humans were weak, Vex said as the hologram changed to show human cities. They lived such short lives, maybe 80 years if they were lucky. They got sick easily. They needed air to breathe and water to drink. They could not even leave. Their planet without machines to keep them alive. The alien crowd laughed. Many of them lived for thousands of years. Some did not need to breathe at all. The idea of such weak creatures being a threat seemed funny to them now. The hologram shifted. Again. This time, it showed massive warships surrounding Earth. The ships belonged to a dozen different alien races. All of them had worked together to stop humanity. "We gave them a chance to surrender," Vex explained. "We told them to stay on their little planet and never try to explore space again. But humans were too proud. They refused our generous offer." Commander Roku sat in the shadows at the back of the hall. Unlike the other aliens, he wore a simple black uniform with no markings. His face was hidden under a dark hood. Nobody paid attention to him, which was exactly what he wanted. "So we did what we had to do," Vex announced proudly. "We showed them the price of challenging their betters." The hologram now displayed the bombardment of Earth. Bright flashes of energy struck the planet's surface. Explosions covered entire continents. The blue oceans turned black with smoke and debris. It took 3 days, Vex said with satisfaction. 3 days to wipe out every human city, every human base, every trace of their pathetic civilization. We made sure none of them escaped to spread their infection to other worlds. Dr. Kara felt uncomfortable watching the destruction. Even if humans were dangerous, seeing an entire species die was hard to watch. She had spent years studying the records of that time. Something about the human extinction always bothered her, but she could never figure out what. The crowd cheered again, as the hologram showed Earth as a dead, gray ball of rock. Nothing moved on its surface. No lights showed where cities once stood. The planet looked completely lifeless. And so, Vex concluded, we saved the galaxy from the human plague. For 500,000 years, we have lived in peace. No more human wars. No more human expansion. No more human arrogance. The celebration continued for hours. Different alien leaders took turns speaking about their part in humanity's defeat. The Zephyrians talked about how their fleet destroyed human space stations. The Crystalline Collective bragged about jamming human communications. The gas giants told stories of their ships hunting down human survivors in deep space. Each speaker had the same message. Humans were weak. Humans were primitive. Humans got exactly what they deserved. The day went on. The aliens became more confident in their stories. Some claimed they had fought thousands of human ships single-handed. Others said they had captured human prisoners who begged for mercy. The tales grew bigger and less believable with each telling. Dr. Kara noticed something strange during all: the boasting. The official records showed that very few aliens had actually fought humans directly. Most of the battles were won by orbital bombardment from safe distances. The aliens never tried to land on human worlds or capture human technology. They just destroyed everything from space and left. Commander Roku listened to every speech without saying a word. Occasionally, he would make notes on a small device. When aliens talked about specific battles or human weapons, he paid extra attention. But he never joined in the celebration or spoke to anyone. As the third sun began to set, the formal ceremony ended. The aliens started to break into smaller groups, continuing their celebration with food and drinks. The atmosphere was festive and relaxed. That was when the first strange reading appeared. Lieutenant Vel Norkin, a young officer monitoring the communication systems, noticed unusual energy patterns at the edge of the galaxy. The readings were very faint, barely detectable by their most sensitive equipment. "Admiral," he called to Vex Thalin, "we are picking up some odd signals from the outer rim." Vex walked over to look at the displays. The energy signatures were unlike anything in their databases. They pulsed in regular patterns, almost like they were trying to send a message. "Probably just cosmic radiation," Vex said dismissively. "The outer rim is full of old stellar debris. Nothing to worry about." But Dr. Kara was also studying the readings now. Something about the patterns seemed familiar, though she could not place where she had seen them before. "The energy signature is very organized," she told the Admiral. "Natural phenomena usually show random patterns. This looks almost like it. Was made by intelligent beings." Vex laughed. "Intelligent beings from where? We know every species in the galaxy. There is nothing out there but empty space and dead stars." The strange signals continued for several hours, growing slightly stronger as the night went on. Most of the aliens ignored them, too busy celebrating to worry about mysterious readings from empty space. Then, just as the celebration was winding down, every communication system in the Great Hall activated at once. Screens flickered to life, speakers crackled with static. The aliens looked around in confusion as their technology responded to some unseen command. The static cleared and a single message appeared on every display. 5 simple words that made the blood freeze in every alien's veins. "We remember." The message played once, then vanished. All the communication systems returned to normal as if nothing had happened. But the damage was done. The confident, celebrating aliens now looked at each other with fear and uncertainty. In the shadows, Commander Roku smiled beneath his hood. After 500,000 years of waiting, it was finally beginning. 3 weeks after the celebration on Nexus Prime, Captain Lee Hanul stood on the bridge of his reconnaissance ship, staring at the strangest readings he had ever seen. The hegemony had sent his vessel, the Star Hunter, to investigate the mysterious signals from the galactic rim. What they found defied all understanding. "Captain," called Engineer Park Mira from her station, "these energy patterns are getting stronger. Whatever is out there, it is big. Really big." Hanul nodded grimly. Mira was the best engineer in the fleet, and if she seemed worried, there was good reason. They had been traveling toward the source of the signals for 2 weeks now, and each day brought new surprises. "How big are we talking?" Hanul asked. "The energy output suggests something at least 1,000 kilometers across," Mira replied, checking her instruments again. "But the readings are so strange. It is not like any ship or station we know about." At the communications desk, young Kim Do-hyun suddenly straightened up. The officer had been quiet for most of the journey, but now his face showed excitement and fear. "Captain, I am picking up transmissions," Do-hyun announced. "They are very faint, but they seem to be coming from the same location as the energy readings." "What kind of transmissions?" Hanul moved closer to the communications station. "That is the strange part, sir. The language is completely unknown, but the transmission method is familiar. It uses old Earth communication protocols. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew that Earth communication methods had been studied and copied by many species over the centuries. But this was supposed to be empty space, far from any known civilization. "Are you certain?" Hanul asked. "Yes, sir. The signal structure matches human radio patterns from their final years, but the content is something else entirely. The language has evolved far beyond anything in our databases." As they drew closer to the source, more strange things began to happen. Their navigation systems started showing impossible readings. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around whatever lay ahead. Stars appeared to be in the wrong positions, as if someone was playing with the laws of physics. "Captain," Mira called, out with worry in her voice. "Our engines are responding to external commands. Something is controlling our ship." Before Hanul could respond, the main view screen activated on its own. The image it showed made every crew member gasp in amazement and terror. Floating in the void before them was a structure beyond imagination. It was not quite a ship and not quite a station. The thing seemed to be alive, with surfaces that moved like flowing water. Parts of it appeared solid, while others looked like pure energy. It stretched across space for thousands of kilometers, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "What in the galaxy is that?" whispered Mira. The structure pulsed with gentle light, and suddenly their communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke, clear and calm, using perfect galactic standard language. "Welcome, children of the stars. We have been waiting for you." Hanul found his voice after a moment of shock. "This is Captain Lee Hanul of the hegemony vessel Star Hunter. Identify yourself." There was a pause, and then something that might have been laughter came through the speakers. "We are what you have been celebrating the destruction of for 500,000 years. We are human." The bridge crew exchanged looks of disbelief. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. The galaxy had made sure of it 5 centuries ago. "That is impossible," Hanul stated. "Humans were wiped out completely. We have records of Earth's destruction." "You have records of Earth's evacuation," the voice corrected gently. "What you destroyed was an empty planet, a shell left behind while we moved on to something better." The view screen changed to show the interior of the massive structure. Beings moved through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. They looked human, but different somehow. Taller, more graceful, with eyes that held intelligence far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. "You see," the voice continued, "when your fleet surrounded our world, we faced a choice. Fight a war we could not win, or disappear and become something you could never defeat. We chose wisdom over pride." Do-hyun was recording everything, his hands shaking as he operated the communication equipment. This was the greatest discovery in galactic history, and he was witnessing it firsthand. "But how?" Hanul asked. "Our records show complete destruction. Every human city, every human base, everything was confirmed destroyed. You destroyed buildings and empty vehicles." The human replied, "We had already transferred our consciousness beyond physical form. What you call death, we call graduation." The structure around their ship began to change. New sections appeared from nowhere, growing like living tissue. The Star Hunter was gently pulled inside through an opening that formed specifically for them. "Do not be afraid," the voice assured them. "We mean you no harm. We have been watching your species develop for centuries. You show promise." As their ship settled into what appeared to be a docking bay, more impossible sights greeted them. Humans walked through solid walls as if they were made of air. Others seemed to be made of pure light, changing between energy and matter at will. Children played games that involved manipulating gravity and creating small stars with their bare hands. "This cannot be real," Mira whispered. "Your technology," Hanul said, trying to understand what he was seeing. "It is far beyond anything we know." How did you advance so quickly? Time moves differently when you are not bound by physical limitations, the human explained. What seemed like 500,000 years to you was much longer for us. We have had millions of years to grow and learn. A figure approached their ship, walking across empty space without any kind of protective gear. It looked human, but moved with impossible grace. When it smiled, the expression was both kind and sad. "You may come aboard our vessel," the figure said directly into their minds without using the communication system at all. "We have much to discuss about the state of the galaxy." Hanul looked at his crew. They were all scared, but also curious. This was the chance of a lifetime to meet a species that should not exist. "Sir," Do-hyun said quietly, "I have been monitoring galactic communication networks. Similar structures are appearing near other major worlds. Whatever this is, it is happening everywhere at once." The implications hit Hanul like a physical blow. If humans had survived and grown this powerful, if they were revealing themselves across the entire galaxy simultaneously, then everything was about to change. "We should go," he decided. "But keep the communication channel open to Fleet Command. They need to know what we have found." As the crew prepared to leave their ship, the human voice spoke one more time. "Captain Hanul, we want you to understand something important. For 500,000 years, your species and others have built a civilization based on the belief that humans were gone. You have made laws, formed governments, and created technologies all under the assumption that you were the masters of the galaxy." The figure smiled again, and this time there was something dangerous in the expression. "It is time you learned the truth about who has really been in charge." Ambassador Choi Ji-won materialized in the center of the Galactic Council chamber without warning. One moment the hall was empty except for confused alien officials, and the next moment a human woman stood there as if she had always been present. She wore simple white robes that seemed to glow with their own light, and her eyes held wisdom that spoke of centuries beyond counting. The emergency session had been called after reports started flooding in from across the galaxy. Human structures were appearing everywhere. Ancient alien leaders were claiming to have memories they never had before. Technology that aliens thought they had invented was suddenly revealed to be based on human designs. Dr. Kara Soldin sat in her usual seat, but now she stared at the human ambassador with recognition dawning in her crystalline features. Memories that had been hidden for decades were slowly returning to her mind. She remembered conversations with beings who looked exactly like this woman. Conversations that happened long before humans were supposed to be extinct. "Greetings, children of the stars," Ambassador Ji-won said, in a voice that carried easily through the vast chamber. "We apologize for the deception, but it was necessary for your development and our survival." Admiral Vex Thalon stood up from his seat, his green scales darker than usual with anger and fear. "This is impossible. We destroyed your entire species. We watched your planet burn." Ji-won smiled sadly. "You watched one planet burn. But Admiral, surely you must have wondered why such an advanced species as humanity had only one world. Did you never question why we made it so easy for you to find Earth? Why we gathered all our ships in such obvious locations?" General Nam. Seokjin stepped out of the shadows at the edge of the chamber. The human military officer had been there all along, invisible to alien senses until he chose to reveal himself. His uniform bore no rank insignia that aliens would recognize, but power radiated from him like heat from a star. "The truth is," General Nam said calmly, "Earth was our decoy, a stage where we performed the final act of humanity's supposed destruction. While you celebrated burning an empty world, our real colonies were scattered across 10,000 hidden locations." The alien officials looked around nervously. If humans had been hiding for 500,000 years, if they had been watching and planning all this time, what else had they been doing? Dr. Yoon Hana materialized next to the ambassador, this one carrying data tablets that seemed to be made of pure light. The evolutionary biologist looked at the assembled aliens with something that might have been pity. "You want to understand how we survived," Dr. Yoon said, answering the question in every alien's mind. "The answer is simple. We adapted. When faced with extinction, we chose evolution." She gestured, and holographic displays filled the air around them. The images showed human development over the past 500,000 years. Bodies that could survive in any environment. Minds that could process information faster than the most advanced computers. Spirits that could exist independently of physical form. "While you celebrated our death," Dr. Yoon continued, "we were becoming something new. We learned to manipulate matter at the molecular level. We discovered how to transfer consciousness between different forms. We found ways to bend space and time to our will." Admiral Vex tried to maintain his composure, but his voice shook when he spoke. "Even if this is true, you are still just one species. The galaxy has thousands of civilizations. You cannot control all of us." Ambassador Jiwon's expression became almost apologetic. "Admiral, we need to show you something. Dr. Kara, would you please stand?" Dr. Kara found herself rising from her seat without consciously deciding to do so. As she stood, her crystalline body began to change. The faceted surface grew smoother, more organic. Her multiple arms shifted into a more familiar configuration. The other aliens watched in horror as Dr. Kara's true form was revealed. Beneath the crystalline exterior was a human woman. Older than any human should have been able to live, but unmistakably human. "My real name is Dr. Kara Solden Park," she said, her voice now carrying a different accent. "I have been studying alien cultures from within for the past 12,000 years. My mission was to observe and guide your scientific development." Panic began to spread through the chamber as other alien officials started looking at each other with suspicion. If Dr. Kara was human, who else might be hiding in plain sight? "The Zephyrian trade minister who negotiated your mining rights," General Nam said helpfully. "Human. The crystalline collective member who suggested your current education system. Human. The gas giant representative who proposed your current military structure. Also human." Ambassador Ji-won raised her hand for silence. "We want you to understand that this was never about conquest. We could have revealed ourselves at any time and claimed dominion over the galaxy. Instead, we chose to guide you toward becoming the best versions of yourselves." She gestured again, and new holograms appeared. These showed the galaxy's development over the past 500,000 years. Wars that had been prevented by mysterious interventions. Scientific breakthroughs that had appeared just when they were needed most. Natural disasters that had been mysteriously deflected. "Every time your species faced extinction," Dr. Yoon explained, "we intervened. The plague that threatened the hegemony 300,000 years ago was cured by medicine that appeared in your research labs overnight. The asteroid that should have destroyed the crystalline homeworld changed course for reasons your scientists never understood." "You have been our children," Ambassador Ji-won said gently. "We have watched you grow, helped you learn, protected you from dangers you never knew existed, not because we wanted to control you, but because we care about your future." Admiral Vex's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his seat. The implications of what he was hearing were too enormous to process. Everything he believed about galactic history was a lie. "But why reveal yourselves now?" he managed to ask. General Nam's expression grew serious. "Because a threat is coming that we cannot face alone. Something from outside our galaxy that makes the old human-alien conflicts look like children's games. We spent 500,000 years preparing for this day, but now we need the galaxy to stand together." Commander Roku finally removed his hood, revealing features that marked him as human. "The monitoring stations we built at the Galactic Rim have detected an invasion fleet. They call themselves the Devourers, and they consume entire star systems to fuel their expansion. They destroyed 7 galaxies before heading toward ours, he continued. We estimate they will arrive within the next 50 years. When they do, nothing we have built will survive unless we work together. Ambassador Jiwan looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every alien present. This is why we return to you now. Not as conquerors, but as the parents you never knew you had. We offer our knowledge, our technology, our protection. In return, we ask only that you stand with us against the coming darkness. The chamber fell silent as the aliens processed this information. Their entire worldview had been shattered in the space of an hour. Everything they thought they knew about their history, their achievements, their place in the galaxy was wrong. But in that silence, something new began to grow. For the first time in 500,000 years, humanity and their galactic children would face the future together. President Baek Min-ho stood in the command center of the massive human vessel that had once been Earth's moon. 500,000 years of patient engineering had transformed the satellite into something far more powerful than any weapon the galaxy had ever seen. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of every ship, every station, every inhabited world in known space. The hegemony's response to humanity's revelation had been swift and predictable. Rather than accept their new reality, Admiral Vex Thalan had declared war on the human species. Again. They never learn, muttered Admiral Song Yaren as she studied the tactical displays. The human fleet commander watched as hegemony warships moved into attack formations around key worlds. 500,000 years, and they still think superior numbers can defeat superior evolution. Elder Oh Tai-hyun, one of the few humans who remembered the original exodus from Earth, shook his head sadly. The ancient man's body flickered between solid matter and pure energy as his emotions affected his physical form. I had hoped they would be wiser by now, he said. I was there when we made the decision to leave. We could have fought then, could have shown them what real war looked like, but we chose peace. President Min-ho nodded grimly. And now they force us to show them anyway. The first battle began near the trade world of Nexus 7. 300 hegemony warships surrounded the planet, demanding that the human trade representatives surrender themselves for execution. The aliens had not learned that every human trade representative was actually a volunteer who could survive anything the galaxy threw at them. Captain Park Jin-woo materialized on the bridge of the lead hegemony vessel without triggering any of their security systems. The human officer looked exactly as he had when he first arrived on Nexus 7 50 years ago, not having aged a single day. Admiral Corrin, he said politely to the shocked alien commander. I am here to accept your surrender! The reptilian admiral snarled and ordered his weapons to fire. Every gun on every ship in the fleet opened up at once, filling space with enough energy to destroy a small moon. Captain Jin-woo stood calmly in the middle of the bridge as the barrage struck him directly. When the light faded, he was completely unharmed. Not even his uniform was singed. Are you finished? He asked. Admiral Corrin stared in disbelief. What are you? I am what humans become when we have time to grow, Jin-woo replied. He gestured casually, and every weapon system on every hegemony ship simply stopped working. Your weapons were built using technology we gave you centuries ago. Did you really think we would not include safety measures? Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human representatives revealed their true capabilities. Humans walked through solid walls to appear on alien bridges. They disabled entire fleets with a wave of their hands. They demonstrated that every piece of advanced technology the aliens possessed had been a gift from humanity, complete with hidden controls. Admiral Song Yaren watched the reports flooding in from 100 different star systems. Everywhere, hegemony forces were being systematically humiliated without a single shot being fired by human ships. They are not fighting back, she observed. The aliens are trying everything they have, and our people are just defending themselves. Because we are still hoping they will see reason, President Minho replied. But I fear that hope is misplaced. His fear proved correct when Admiral Vex made his most desperate decision. Unable to defeat humans in direct combat, unable to damage their ships or hurt their people, he chose to strike at something humans might actually care about. If we cannot destroy them, Vex announced in a galaxy-wide broadcast, then we will make sure they have nothing left to protect. All hegemony forces target inhabited worlds. If humans want to play God, let them try to save everyone at once. The alien fleets suddenly changed course, abandoning their attacks on human representatives and heading for defenseless colonies. Planets full of civilians became targets. Space stations with families aboard found themselves surrounded by warships ready to destroy them rather than face defeat. Elder O's form blazed with anger. Now they threaten innocence. This cannot be allowed. President Minho's expression hardened. Admiral Song, it is time to show them what we have really been building all these years. Admiral Song nodded and activated communications to the human fleet. But instead of ships appearing on the displays, something far more dramatic happened. Stars began to move. Across the galaxy, alien astronomers watched in terror as entire solar systems shifted position. Stars that had been in the same location for billions of years suddenly relocated themselves, carrying their planets and populations to safety. Whole sectors of space rearranged themselves like pieces on a chessboard. Captain Lee Hanul, still aboard his reconnaissance ship near the original human structure, watched his navigation charts become completely useless as the galaxy reshaped itself around him. "How is this possible?" he whispered. The human he had been speaking with smiled. "We told you we learned to manipulate space and time. Moving stars is not difficult when you understand that space itself is just another form of matter." But the star movements were only the beginning. As hegemony fleets arrived at planets they intended to destroy, they found empty space. Every threatened world had been relocated to safety faster than the aliens could track. "Where did they go?" Admiral Vex demanded of his navigation officer. "Unknown, sir. It is like entire solar systems just vanished." They had not vanished. They had been moved to a pocket dimension that humans had been preparing for exactly this situation. Billions of alien civilians found themselves in a space that looked exactly like normal space, except that their stars now spelled out a message in perfect galactic standard: protected by humanity. But moving planets was still not enough to convince the hegemony to surrender. Admiral Vex, driven by 500,000 years of pride and the complete collapse of everything he believed, made one final, desperate choice. "If we cannot rule the galaxy," he broadcast to his remaining forces, "then no one will. All ships, prepare to detonate your power cores simultaneously. We will create a chain reaction that will destroy everything." It was madness, but it was the madness of beings who had learned that their entire existence had been a lie. Rather than accept human superiority, they would end everything. President Minho closed his eyes sadly. "They leave us no choice." Admiral Song activated one final system, something humanity had hoped never to use. Across the galaxy, every hegemony ship, every hegemony station, every piece of hegemony technology simply ceased to function. Not destroyed, not damaged, but switched off as easily as someone might turn off a light. The hegemony fleet drifted helplessly in space, their life support systems the only thing still working. They had been reduced to exactly what they had always been without human gifts, a primitive species with delusions of grandeur. "The war is over," Admiral Song announced, "and now the real work begins." Counselor Lim Soo-young walked through the rebuilt halls of the Galactic Council, but everything was different now. The crystal dome still sparkled under 3 suns, but the energy flowing through its walls came from human technology that made matter and energy dance together in perfect harmony. Where once there had been separate sections for different species, now there were spaces that could adapt to any being's needs in real time. 6 months had passed since the hegemony's defeat, and the galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. Many alien species had welcomed humanity's return with relief and gratitude. They finally understood why their civilizations had prospered for so long, why disasters had been mysteriously avoided, why their technology had advanced so smoothly. But others struggled with the truth. Pride was a powerful thing, and some species found it hard to accept that their greatest achievements had been guided by the very beings they thought they had destroyed. Ambassador Yung Woo-jin stood at the center of the great assembly hall, addressing representatives from over 3,000 different worlds. The human diplomat wore simple robes that shifted color to match the emotional tone of his words, a small demonstration of how far human technology had evolved. "We gathered today not to establish dominion," he said, his voice carrying clearly to every being present. "We gather to prepare for survival." The main display showed images from the Galactic Rim, where human monitoring stations had been tracking the approaching threat for decades. The Devourers were massive constructs, each one the size of a small planet, that moved from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything in their path. Dr. Kara Solden, no longer hiding her human nature, stood beside her crystalline colleagues. The transition had been difficult for her former alien friends, but gradually they had come to accept that the person they had known and respected had always been real, even if her appearance had been false. "The Devourer fleet consists of approximately 50,000 units," she reported to the assembly. "Each unit is capable of breaking down an entire star system and converting the matter into more Devourers. They have consumed 7 galaxies completely, leaving nothing but empty space behind." Admiral Vex Thalen sat in the section reserved for former hegemony leaders. The proud reptilian commander looked much older than he had 6 months ago. Learning that his entire life had been based on lies had broken something inside him, but slowly he was rebuilding his understanding of the universe. "How long do we have?" he asked quietly. 43 years, replied Captain Moon Ji-young, the human officer who now commanded the first integrated human-alien exploration vessel. "They move slowly, but they never stop, and they learn from every galaxy they consume." The assembly stirred uneasily. 43 years seemed like a long time, but everyone knew it would pass quickly. "What can we do against something like that?" asked a representative from the gas giant colonies. "If they destroyed 7 entire galaxies, what hope does ours have?" President Baek Minho materialized at the center of the hall, his presence immediately commanding attention. The human leader looked tired, as if carrying the weight of the galaxy's future was exhausting even for someone with his abilities. "We can do what humanity has always done," he said simply. "We adapt, we evolve, and we refuse to give up." The display changed to show new images, massive construction projects at the edge of the galaxy. Human technology was building something enormous in the empty space between stars. For 500,000 years, we have been preparing for this moment, President Minho continued. "We knew the Devourers would come eventually. Everything we did, every choice we made, was part of getting ready for this war." Elder Oh Tae-hyun appeared beside the president, his ancient form flickering with energy that made the air itself hum with power. "But we cannot win this fight alone," he said. "The Devourers are not just machines. They are fragments of a consciousness that spans multiple galaxies. To defeat them, we need the combined will of every thinking being in our galaxy." Ambassador Jung stepped forward again. "This is why we propose a new kind of civilization. Not humans ruling over other species, not separate governments competing for resources, but a true union where every species contributes their unique strengths." "What would that look like?" asked Dr. Kara. "The Zephyrians' ability to navigate hyperspace could help us move our fleets faster than ever before," Jung explained. The crystalline collective's mineral processing could create materials stronger than anything we currently have. The gas giant's understanding of stellar mechanics could help us turn stars themselves into weapons. He gestured, and the display showed simulations of combined technologies. Human matter manipulation merged with alien engineering to create ships that existed partially in multiple dimensions. Crystalline processing combined with human consciousness transfer to create hybrid beings that could survive in any environment. And what of leadership? Admiral Vex asked. Despite everything that had happened, he was still a military strategist at heart. Who commands this combined civilization? No one commands it, President Minho replied. We guide it together. Humans will share our knowledge freely, but decisions will be made by representatives of all species. Captain Moon stepped forward with a data tablet that glowed with soft light. We have already begun integrated training programs. Human officers working with alien crews, learning from each other. The results are extraordinary. She showed them footage of ships that moved like living creatures, their alien crews working in perfect harmony with human technology. Weapons that adapted to any situation, powered by the combined creativity of multiple species. But there is something else, Elder O said, his voice growing serious. Something we have not told you about the Devourers. The assembly fell silent, sensing that important information was about to be revealed. They are not from outside our universe, the ancient human continued. They are from our future, a timeline where the galaxy failed to unite, where species fought each other until they weakened themselves enough for the Devourers to take root. The implications of this revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. If the Devourers came from a future where unity failed, then their very existence proved that cooperation was not just preferable, but essential for survival. By working together now, President Minho explained, we change that timeline. We create a future where the Devourers never come into being. Counselor Lim looked around the Great Hall, seeing representatives from thousands of worlds, all united by a common threat and a common hope. Then we vote, she announced. All in favor of the United Galactic Alliance? The response was overwhelming. Species that had been enemies for millennia raised their voices together. Former hegemony commanders stood beside human admirals. Scientists from every corner of the galaxy pledged their knowledge to the common cause. As the vote concluded, something remarkable happened. The great crystal dome above them began to glow with new light, powered by the combined will of every being present. For the first time in galactic history, every species was truly working toward the same goal. Captain Moon smiled as she watched the celebration beginning around them. 43 years to build a civilization capable of defending itself against its own dark future. Think we can do it? Ambassador Jung nodded confidently. We are human. We never know when to quit. And now we have the best teachers the galaxy can offer. Outside the crystal dome, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself approved of this new beginning. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as the parents they had always been, ready to guide their galactic children toward a future none of them could achieve alone. The age of separation was over. The age of unity had begun.